All right, I got a two-for you today, a twofer. So that's two wild condo crash stories in one. Yep, got two for one. So let's think about, they're both in Toronto, yes, although eventually I'll have some, looks like I'm going to have some good ones in Vancouver too, but I got two bangers in Toronto to talk about. So I'm smiling because it's crazy. Some of this stuff is crazy. All right, we got the tallest condo building in Canada, one of the most expensive buildings in Canada. Apparently, there's one in Vancouver that takes the cake, but like this is for Toronto. This was maybe the most expensive building, most expensive units, and it's called the One. They call it something new now because they had to distance themselves from the shittery that the original thing turned into. Anyway, it's a famous address. Huge tower, super tall tower. Originally, they were going to have the biggest Apple store in the world on the main level, the commercial level. So this just was fuckery. The guy who was promoting it was just a version of an idiot. Somehow he had to search. Everybody knew he was an idiot. So they had to search all over I know it's hard to believe that an idiot could be put in charge of building the tallest condo building in Canada, but shit happens. So the idiot went all over the world, finally talked, because no Canadian bank would give him a dime. They just said, no, we know you're an idiot. So he went all over the world and found some Korean bank, which is actually sort of propped up by the government of Korea. And they decided, oh, this sounds good. Apple Store in the main level, got to be a winner, and all condos in Toronto are good. We're talking like 7 years ago this thing happened, right? So they financed him, and he did the pre-sales, and it was just a disaster from the start. Like, he overspent everything. He pissed all the money away on foolishness. I mean, it was all just, he didn't know what he was doing. I mean, on and on. Terrible result. Finally, the Korean bank kicks him out, and they put in a receiver. It's basically the project's in bankruptcy. So the interesting part is this, that just yesterday, yesterday, the receiver told all the people who'd bought units and given deposits, like given 20% deposits, just said, yeah, you're out of luck. We're canceling everything. I think there was like 15 that was left alone. But can you imagine? You've been 7 years watching this infinite fuckery and hoping that it might get finished. And then just one day they tell you, nope, 315 of you, forget it. We'll send you the money back and you're done. You're out. Like, it's heads I win, tails you lose, for the love of God. I mean, like, it's just awful. The next great story, I told you it was a twofer, is that there's a very well-known store, flagship store on a very, very well-known street retail street in Toronto. And a few years ago, because it's a low-rise store, like it's only 4 stories, it's naturally sold out to condominium developers, to super rich condominium developers. And they bought the land and they, started the work. And anyway, the store is finally going to move to its new location down the famous street, this well-known store that's in most cities in Canada. It's a chain. It's going to move its store down to a new location that's just finishing off down there. And it sold that property to the condo people. So the guy who's like the original ancient man who was part of because in Ontario, almost all big builders and developers are part of 5 families. Yeah, they're like 5 Italian families who run the whole, give them credit. The original people, the ancient people who are in their 80s, 90s are dead now. They worked their balls off and they created this magnificent business. Because there's also a little bit of timing issues. They had their hit at the right time. They also worked hard. So now it's all down to their kids. So the man is there buying something in this store that's soon to be moved down the street. And he says to the guy, oh, yeah, you're moving. When are you moving? And the sales guy says, oh, we're moving in this April. And the guy says, yeah. He says, I don't know what we're going to do here. So he looks around, like he's looking around the store. He says, I don't know what we're going to do here because we can't sell a single condo here. Nobody can sell a condo in Toronto. So it's just going to have to sit empty for a while. What the fuck? Okay, whoa. These guys are so rich that they can buy a location, a famous location on a very famous street, and say, well, condo business is screwed in Toronto. We'll just leave it here for a while and a few years, see what happens. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. Okay, like it's nuts. Now, maybe they'll open a sales center. I don't know, but right now the condo business is just as dead can be. Okay, but these guys are so rich. Yeah, that's what he said to the salesman. He says, "Oh well, it's my son's problem. The boys will figure it out later someday. They're so rich they can pay big money. It was top dollar at the time, right? They probably did the deal like four years ago or something, 3-4 years ago. They just could leave it sit because they know nobody's buying those condominiums right now. Now, maybe in a year or two, they're going to be luxury condominiums naturally because then there's going to be some retail on the bottom. Okay, whatever. But that's how wild it is when 5 families control so much of the development in one province. Yeah, they just shrug and say, oh yeah, we'll wait till it comes back. Because when you started 45 years ago, 50 years ago, and you made so much money, you could have patience. But this is just part of the story. With condos in Toronto today, the developer doesn't just wants to get rid of you. They just send you your checks for your deposits and say, goodbye. And on the other hand, if somebody is one of the 5 rich families, they just buy the land and the condos are no good right now. So, we'll wait. What a country.